What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video. Today, we're going to be breaking some of the opening moves by the Sixers in free agency, including breaking down the deal to Trenton, Watford, formerly of the Brooklyn Nets. So let's get right into the video. So the Sixers were able to sign forward Trenton Watford to a 2-year, $5.3 million contract. Trenton Watford actually started the first 2 seasons of his career in Portland, and most recently has played the previous 2 seasons with the Brooklyn Nets. 6'9" forward, 240 pounds, 24 years old, and he really is a developing young player. And I really do like the signing for the Sixers because you figure he's going to be in the mix for a spot in the rotation at a position of need nonetheless, which is power forward. And you really don't even have to open the bank here, which is going to allow you to pursue other free agents, as well as try and retain some of your own free agents like Quentin Grimes, because you signed him to a 2-year contract, only worth $5.3 million, around 2.7 per year. So you're going to have options from a free agency and cap space standpoint as well as getting a young developing player here in Trenton Watford, which is very exciting for the Sixers. And hopefully he's going to be able to continue to add to his game, considering the fact that he's only 24 years old. So taking a look at Trenton Watford's previous year in Brooklyn, he appeared in 44 games, averaged around 21 minutes in those games for around 10 points per contest, around 3.6 rebounds, 2.6 assists, shot around 47% from the field on 8 field goal attempts per game, took 2 3-point attempts per game, and knocked down at least 33% of those shots, and had a free throw percentage of 76.2. So not necessarily the greatest shooter, but he does show pretty solid touch for his size, that being around 76% from the free throw line. So hopefully he's going to continue to develop as a 3-point shooter. And I would say that that's probably one of his biggest weaknesses thus far in his game. He's not necessarily a great floor spacer right now, but I don't necessarily think that's what the Sixers signed him for. I think that the Sixers signed him really to just help in a rebounding department. And you might be saying to yourself, he only averaged around 3.6 rebounds, so he's not a tremendous rebounder by any means, but I think you're just getting more size and body control to really help some of the other bigs on this team, especially considering the fact that the Sixers have not been a good rebounding team for these past couple seasons. So the more size and height you get on your team is only going to help in that category. And last year, for the first time in the Joel Embiid era, the Sixers really struggled on defense and found themselves in, I think, the bottom 5 in terms of defensive rating. So hopefully adding more defensive possessions is going to allow the defensive intensity and efficiency to go up once more, and the Sixers can return to having a top 10 defense. Back to Watford's play style, however, he really is a bit of an interesting player here. You don't see many players of his size with the handles that he has, and I would say he's probably at his best in terms of his offensive game when he's attacking downhill. And even if you look at some of his highlights from last year, he really does have an impressive array of dribble combinations, whether it's between the legs, spin moves, stuff like that, that really helps him get to the basket. And with the spacing the Sixers hope to provide, I can only see him finishing around the rim, even at a better clip this year. And speaking of finishing around the rim, he's one of those players who is not afraid to take a smaller defender down low, whether it's through backing them down or through spin moves, drop steps, stuff like that, post hooks. He will definitely take advantage of a mismatch of a smaller player on him. And I would say that's probably where he's at his most efficient, attacking downhill and certainly finishing on some of the smaller defenders you put on him in the post. And talking more about his post game, he does a real nice job of finding cutters and facilitating from the post and playing alongside a guy like Kelly Oubre, who is very used to cutting off ball. I can very much see Trenton Watford and Kelly Oubre developing a pretty solid connection here for the Sixers, whether it's on the bench or even at times in the starting rotation between the two of them here. And lastly, what I like to see the most from Trenton Watford on the defensive end is he provides a pretty solid secondary rim protector. Not someone who's going to be anchoring your defense by any means, but on a lot of off-ball approaches where he got his blocks, he does a real nice job of timing when offensive players go up. And even if they go in through the body of a center, having a secondary rim protector who's also pretty mobile, like Trenton Watford coming over for backside blocks, stuff like that, is only going to help your defense, especially considering the fact that he can also rebound. It's only going to help this defense, and I am really excited to see how Trenton Watford kind of fits into the Sixers rotation. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of units he's going to be playing with, whether it's the second unit or if he's going to get some spot start minutes with the starters. But I really am excited to see how Watford kind of continues to develop his game from this past season with Brooklyn. So moving on here, I kind of wanted to just wrap up some of the other Sixers news thus far in the offseason. The Sixers were able to ink forward Justin Edwards on a 3-year extension. I believe it's around $10 million, which is very exciting because Justin Edwards found himself in a little bit of an expanded role last year. Definitely more than I'm sure the Sixers and himself expected before the start of last season. And he played rather well. He averaged around 10 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.6 assists, a steal. Shot around 45% from the field on 8.6 field goal attempts. I do expect the attempts to possibly drop considering the fact that Joel Embiid and Paul George are going to be out there for a majority more time than expected last year, hopefully. And he shot 36% from three, which was a really surprising aspect of his game. I did not think that he was going to be as valuable of a catch-and-shoot shooter as he was from the three-point land last season. Shot around 4.3 three-point attempts per game, so that's sizable volume too. So he really did kind of show himself as someone who's able to knock down some shots on the perimeter, and of course you could never have enough of that in the NBA today, especially considering the fact that I think that he did rather well on the defensive end for a rookie as well, and shot around 70% from the free throw line. So a nice job by the Sixers front office locking up another core piece of the rotation at a pretty solid lower value NBA contract here. But speaking of picking up more options, Kelly Oubre opts into his player option of $8.4 million, as well as Andre Drummond opts into his player option of $5 million. Yet two of those guys returning from last season. I'm really happy to have Kelly Oubre back. Kelly Oubre has quickly become one of my favorite players. I think last year he really was a warrior, playing through the majority of the games. And I think he just knows his role with the Sixers here. He had a little bit of a down year shooting the ball last year, so hopefully he can kind of return to his career norms. He's never been much of a great shooter, but he certainly wasn't as bad as he was last year. And he just does a real nice job of playing good defense, cutting off ball, and really knowing his role in the offense compared to what he used to do throughout his career. He really has settled into that nice NBA role player role. And whether he's going to be starting or coming off the bench here for the Sixers in this upcoming season, I'm really excited to see Kelly Oubre back. And I wish I can say the same about Andre Drummond. However, last year he frankly just was not the player that he has been before. His rebounding numbers were down, whether it's through injury or just due to the fact that he's getting older. His production was down. He was never much of a great offensive player, but even that, his percentages dropped in that standpoint. And even his shot selection at times was a bit questionable. So that is $5 million going to the cap space. However, Eric Gordon actually declines his player option, so the Sixers saved themselves $3.4 million for this upcoming season and can use that towards free agency, as well as the team declining Jared Butler's $2.3 million team option. So they do save themselves a little bit of money here, and that's only going to help in the signing of Quentin Grimes. And speaking about Quentin Grimes, we have some positive news here with the trade going down between the Nuggets and the Nets for Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson switch. I believe the Nets actually owe Michael Porter Jr. more money, which is going to allow them to not pay as much to Quentin Grimes. And really the Nets and Pistons are the biggest of the quote-unquote threats to pry Quentin Grimes away from the Sixers. And with both them spending money in different assets, a Quentin Grimes reunion does seem more achievable than it did a couple days ago. So hopefully his looking number in terms of money that he's looking for does decrease a bit. And the Sixers do have restricted free agent rights over Quentin Grimes, so they are going to be able to match whatever any other team offers here. And even if the Sixers aren't able to re-sign Quentin Grimes, with those signings of those two players to the other two franchises, a sign and trade is very much more likely, because if a team really wants Quentin Grimes, they're going to have to outbid the Sixers by a amount of dollars, and that's not going to happen. And even if a team does, the Sixers are probably going to be able to pull off a sign and trade because no other team can really afford what Quentin Grimes is looking for right now. So if another team does want to come to an agreement with Quentin Grimes, they are going to have to get rid of some financial flexibility, which only means that the Sixers can use that financial leverage to try and pry something away from a franchise who does try to sign Quentin Grimes. So I would say that a Quentin Grimes reunion is very much more likely based after the signings of both the Pistons with Karis LeVert and the trade for MPJ with the Nets. So hopefully the Sixers and Quentin Grimes are able to lower his amount of money that he desires, and hopefully he'll be able to play once more in Philadelphia and come to a longer term extension here. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the Sixers signings. And of course, I'm going to be up to date on all the Sixers signings throughout this free agency period. So look out for some more videos there. And once again, thank you so much for watching.